at another Cambrian contact. This one is in the town of Deadwood, South Dakota, on a hillside above town. And below we have the Precambrian phyllites and schist. Here in this area, this is pretty much just a mica phyllite. It can get schisty in some places. Some places there's some sand stringers, kind of sandy material going through it, but this is primarily a phyllite, a micaceous phyllite. Might have a garnet or two in it once in a while. And then you got the top of the Precambrian surface, which is right here, with quartz cobble boulders. See one back there, there's a big one there, there's one there, back up underneath there's another one. So you get these pebble conglomerates that exist at the contact. So these are just old vein quartz boulders, residual boulders from the weathering on top of this Precambrian surface. There's a gigantic one right there, stuck in between. So the early miners in the Black Hills in the 1870s, they covered the entire Black Hills looking for these this contact, and then they would mine and dig into the into this pebble conglomerate between the two units and find lag gold in those deposits. Now, in some areas, it's actually a conglomeratic type of a body that may be tens of feet thick. Here, it's just represented by a few boulders. At other locations, it's just one Precambrian rock right into the Cambrian rock with no conglomeratic material present. So you see all sorts of things. And then immediately above, we have the Deadwood Formation. This is the basal sand. It's pretty tough rock. Again, we have an angular unconformity here. This material is dipping at some 70 or 80 degrees. And then the relatively flat line, you can see some bedding in this material in here. So this is like 4 or 5 degree dip on this material. This is a pretty tough sand. You can see it's been beat up quite a bit with geology students up here beating on it with their rock hammers. It's like somebody's broke open some fresh quartz there as well. But if we step back, then we see this, again, the contact is right here, and then there's this basal unit, that piece right here at the tip of my hammer. Now that's about 5 feet thick. That's a basal sand. It's pretty tough. It's pretty indurated. It's an arenite, very little else in it, but highly rounded quartz. And then the unit above, right here, is bedded, more finely bedded. You can see the bedding in it, where this down here is more just one thick 5 foot bed. There's some smaller units in it, but this is inches thick bedding here. And then above it, if we pan up the slope, again, you'll see a difference in character. So again, here's the basal, then here's this bedded material, and there's some cross beds in it we'll look at in a second. And as we get up toward the top, you can see it changes kind of color right here. It gets reddish, more reddish. That's a little different lithology as well. So we come down here, we can see the bedding in here, cross bedding. A lot of these little bed sets will be 2 or 3 inches thick, and then will be cross bedded in between. So like this one right here where the tip of the hammer is, that's got cross bedding in it. 4 sets are going off to the right in this case, and some thicker wedges over here in with the thin. So this is all a beach deposit. This is marine sand, cross bedded marine sand. Okay, there's some good cross bedding sets in there. This is all cross bedded material in here. Then just again looking up the slope, all this cross-bedded material in front of us, that 5-foot basal unit is gone. Just the top foot is showing right here, so it's dipping into the direction we're walking. Oh, here's some real nice crossbeds right here. And you can see this cross-bedded unit goes up, and then right here on this line, right where that bush is, and right coming across here, things change again. The cross-bedding pretty much goes away. The character of the rock changes. Now it's much more, it's flatter surface. It's not weathered as much. See how weathering this is? So little indentations and weathering of the individual beds. And then topped by a unit that's pretty consistent in thickness. We'll encounter that down here below. So we're walking down dip. This unit is all getting going beneath the surface. That harder unit above is coming down to us at the road. We'll meet it here on the other side of my truck. So right here behind that bush. And that bush has grown up a lot here in just the past few weeks. So we'll go down further then. We'll pick it up again down further. Right here, it's right in front of us now. This unit's roughly maybe 10 foot thick. Okay, you can see this is that kind of reddish stuff. And it's very, very solid. Very high bounce back on the hammer. And in fact, this is a quartzite. So let's try to break a piece off and take a look. Oh, there goes one, but don't know where it went. Get another one here. Let's see. Maybe here. Looks like a lot of people have been breaking pieces right here. There, it's about to come. There, we got a piece right here. So nice sand. These grains are probably quite rounded, if I recall. We'll take a look here. Oh yeah, again, very clear crystalline quartz that was got caught up in the weathering cycle. Now they're all highly rounded grains, pretty uniform in size, but pretty small in size. We'll measure them later. And again, breaks across the grains. So it's a quartzitic material in a sedimentary rock, which is an orthoquartzite. Then we've got that 5 foot thick or 10 foot thick kind of orthoquartzite. And then again, looking above, you can see the character changes completely. And we're back into more thinly bedded sands and a lot of interbedded shaly units in here. So an interbedded sand and shale. So again, this stuff is mainly arenite, very little in it besides quartz. And then you can see the shales in here. So here's a couple inches of shale, 3 inches of sand, 3 inches of shale, 3 inches of sand, a little bit of shale, more sand, a little bit of shale parting in here, sand and shale, sand and shale. So again, this is sea bottom, sea going in and out, changing from clastic to a mud type of deposit. And of course the Cambrian was the time of the Cambrian explosion of life, and so little critters were living, quite vigorously living in this material, and most of this stuff is bioturbated and quite highly bioturbated with shell fragments and or not so much fragments, but trails and tracks and burrows and things like that that are ubiquitous in this material. So we'll probably see more of that type of stuff in other videos that I do later to look at particulars and structures and things within these individual units here that we have exposed in the Black Hills. So Black Hills is the type section for the Deadwood Formation, and in fact, looking across the road, you can see the outcrop across the road. This up here, this base here where the trees stop, stratigraphically is not too far above us, maybe 50 or possibly 100 feet above us. And then that upper part that you see exposed there is the upper units of the Deadwood. And so this whole thing in here represents the type section. And then further down the canyon, if you look down the canyon, you can see up on top of the hills up there, these white rocks up here. That's the Madison limestone up higher yet. So Cambrian and Pennsylvanian up there on top of the hill. So we're on the north end of Deadwood here, the Deadwood Visitor Center right there. Whitewood Creek, this flows at the bottom of the canyon here. The town put in a little walkway here a couple of years ago. It's pretty nice. You can park at the Visitor Center and then walk along this parkway down here along the creek. We'll take a look at the bridge across the creek here from the Visitor Center. So pretty nice. This is early July. It's getting kind of touristy, so quite busy. A lot of people here. Okay, this is the Wharf gold mine in the northern Black Hills. It's the only operating open pit mine for gold right now. Back in the late 80s there were 8 or 9. They're all closed down now except this one. They keep expanding the pit to the south here. As long as the prices of gold keep up where they are, they're able to profitably mine. So there's a truck hauling spent ore, and then they're dumping in the bottom in the pit, filling up. And a drill rig right over there. So right here. So they drill and blast on those benches and then haul the ore out, and you see a truck heading out loaded with ore, and then they take and put them up on the heap leach piles, which are right here, and you can see the black hose running up at the base down here and then up on the edge, and they'll have that whole thing covered with those black hoses, and they have sprinkler heads on them, and then they spray their cyanide solution onto the ore, which has been crushed down to something like 3/4 of an inch diameter. And then that cyanide solution is able to penetrate in along little fractures and cracks and things into the rest of the rock, into the piece, and dissolve out the gold. And then the solution is collected at the bottom of the pile, which is built on an impermeable barrier, so all the liquids are recovered, and then they reprecipitate the gold out of the ore solution.